What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and today I am back with another edition of the betting show as we look ahead to UFC Fight Night 232, Alan versus Craig. And there is a double betting show this week, so if you're watching this is the UFC bets. I'll have another video for Bellator bets because it's a really good Bellator card, arguably one of the best Bellator cards ever. So I'll have 5 bets here for the UFC, and I will have another 5 bets over for Bellator. So check out that video if it's not out yet. It'll be out soon, so please check that out as well. I just thought it's a big weekend in the world of mixed martial arts, especially for Bellator. They deserve maybe a show of their own, and honestly I had a good, 3 bets from this card that I was really confident on. So I said, why not? Let's double show it up. Let's give the people what they want. Let's give 2 shows this week. So that's exactly what we have done. Before we get into this week's bets, let's have a quick look at last week's bets. We had on average enough week. We hit 2 out of the 4 bets, and the flyer didn't hit. Obviously, the flyer was Pavlovich to win via round 2. I went mad with the flyer for a plus 1,000 bet. That did not hit, unfortunately, for the bettors, but fortunately for Tommy Aspinall, fair play to him. But the 2 bets that did hit, we had Jessica Andrade, and honestly, I was pretty strong on that last week. I gave it to you a plus 150. It closed. I looked it up just after the fight. It was plus 205, which was, in my opinion, the craziest money line price that I have seen in a long time. And this has not been me being the general after the battle or anything like that. I also said it last week. It was crazy that she was the underdog, and we know why. And there's actually another fight like that this week, but we'll get to that in a second. The other win was the Yeri versus Alex fight to go over 1.5 rounds at minus 150, which I kind of predicted almost exactly. Now how it went after that, no, I got that wrong. But up until that point, correct. So I'll take that at minus 150. So that's a pretty good price for that bet as well. The other 2 bets a lot, Marco Madsen, he got, beaten pretty easily, so that wasn't a great one. And Bartosz Lesko over in KSW. I actually haven't been able to see that fight yet, but I was reading about it up on Sherdog.com here, and apparently it was an even enough fight until he kind of got caught there. So, unfortunate that one, but we got 2 in the books anyway, and hopefully we'll get another couple here this week. All right, let's get straight into it. So on my first bet for the week, I'm going for Michael Morales to win his fight with Jake Matthews, and this price has actually fluctuated. When I was looking at this last night, it was a little bit of a better price than it is now, so I do think it's gone out a little bit, but it's minus 275 as we speak right here and right now. And I'll just quickly check. Yeah, so it was minus, I think it says it started out at minus 250 here. I'm pretty sure I saw it a little bit better than that even, but I'm still taking it anyway at minus 275. And I have a few reasons for that. So Michael Morales, 23 years of age, 15-0, fighting Jake Matthews, 29 years of age, 19-6. And do you know what? Usually when I'm doing these shows, I very rarely actually read that out, right? Their names and their ages, right? But for this one, I think it matters because we're looking at one guy here who is a highly touted prospect, undefeated, and has never kind of reached that, the moment yet, right? The moment where it either goes very good or very bad. Very well, I should say, or very badly. And the other one, we have seen that, right? But for certain fighters, like say Morales, let's say if Morales was to lose this weekend, and obviously we're giving it as a bet, so hopefully not. But if he was to lose this weekend, there is a possibility that is a good thing, right? There's a possibility that he loses and he comes back even better and he goes to another level, and I could say the same for, say, someone like Sean Brady who has lost, or someone maybe even like, let's say Ian Gary was to lose a fight. Guys like that, you would look at him and go, right, let's use that, let's get better, and let's move on. That has happened for Jake Matthews, and I don't think that next level has been reached, right? I look at his record, I look at his fights, and you say, like, he goes in there and he loses to your 4-inch Sean Brady. Then he beats Andre Filo, who, you know, been unlucky with wins and losses, but you know, he loses to Matthew Schmelzberger after that. Then he comes back with Darius Flowers. You don't know what to expect from him. Like a guy who you know, was pushed into, say, a James Vick fight, a Kevin Lee fight, ended up losing a couple of things, but he beat Li Zhang, he beat, you know, Emil Mack, Diego Sanchez, and those sort of guys. And you always think, like, this guy is the big prospect coming out of Australia, and he's going to push to that next level. But he never really has, right? And I think there's a stage in someone's career where you kind of almost stop trusting them. And that's easy for me to say sitting here, but like, we're talking about bets here, and if you're a bettor or if you're someone picking fights, it's like, can I trust this guy to be one of the top guys in the division, right? Or one of the top prospects in the division? And I don't know if that's the case. And I honestly, I don't think it is the case. So, you know, I'm pretty sure I picked Filo to beat him, and I was wrong on that one. But when he goes in there with Brady, goes in there even the Schmelzberger and loses them, that's the type of point you're saying, right, this has happened before. He went in there with James Vick last, went in there with Kevin Lee last, then he won a few more, then he went in there with Anthony Rocker Martin last, then he won a few more, went in there with Sean Brady and last. Like, is that progression to the next level going to happen? And my opinion in that is no, right? Is no. So I'm looking at this from 2 points, right? So I'm almost going with the second point first there in the explanation. So the second point is, like, if a guy, and we'll get to the first point about tactically, technically, just their ability as a fighter, right? Who's better than that? We'll talk about that in a second. The other side of it then is, right, will that advantage be taken away by the experience level, or, you know, and the experience level is it, but like by you know, someone's ability to have been there, done that. This is just me explaining what the word experience means, but you know what I mean. Like someone like Jake Matthews, who, if he had proven he can continually do this, you'd expect, okay, even if he's not as good a fighter, maybe that will tell. But I don't think that's the case. Then the other side of it, Morales, he's just such a good fighter. Now, the big problem with Morales is here, right? Jake Matthews has the experience, but I don't think he has, like, the functional experience. Like, the experiences haven't necessarily been good, right? Michael Morales has, like, a lot of inexperience, though, right? And you see that in some of his fights. You know, he gets himself maybe into positions against certain guys who, you know, maybe he shouldn't be there in those positions against those guys, right? And that could be a factor. But the other side of it then is just his innate ability. He's so good, so powerful, like 15 wins, 12 stoppages, 11 knockouts. He's really skillful. You can see he believes in himself. You can really see he believes in himself. And that is the main reason I'm going for him to win this, because it feels like Jake Matthews at times doesn't believe in himself. And I'll say this again, right? I actually think Jake Matthews, if he did have that, he has the tools. Like, Jake Matthews can wrestle, he can box, you know, he's durable, he can do it all, right? He really can, but he just doesn't. Whereas Morales just does. And that's my main reason for picking him, honestly. I think, and that's some bad analysis there, but he'll just win. Why are you picking him? Because he'll just win. No, I think he'll be longer, stronger, harder hitting. I think Jake Matthews will box with him, and Jake Matthews, I think, will probably do well enough boxing with him until he feels that power, right? And that could be after 10 seconds, or it could be after 10 minutes. But I do think that will happen. I think that will change the fight, and I think the confidence of Morales will take over, and I don't think Matthews will have that confidence level, and that's why I'm picking him to win. And you know, even though it's not the best price in the world, a -275, I still like Morales at that price. So that's the first bet of the week. All right, second bet of the week. This now is a better price, and I am going for Jordan Leavitt to beat Chase Hooper at +180. Now, this is a bet that I have kind of had to talk myself into a little bit. But first things first, I'm betting on this because of the price, right? You look at Chase Hooper's game, you look at Jordan Leavitt's game, I don't think there's a whole big pile of difference in top level ability between them, right? But then you have to boil it down to like, is there a whole lot of difference in levels between, you know, their level and their opponent's level? And in certain parts of the game, maybe, but not really, I don't think. So you look at that and you think, I do this often on the show. Give me the better price. If there are two guys who are, let's be honest, not that good, and I don't mean to be harsh or anything like that, but like, you're coming here for my honest opinion, you're coming here for honest talk. Neither of them are that good. Neither of them will ever be a UFC champion. Neither of them will ever get ranked, right? That's the level they're at. They're at lightweight now as well. Just never going to happen. Give me the better price there. And plus 180, I think, is a very, very good price. If Chase Hooper was plus 180, I probably would have gone for him, right? So this is a price bet more than anything else. Although I rather Leavitt at plus 180 than I would Hooper at plus 180, which makes no sense considering Hooper is the favourite. But for me, it makes sense because I don't think he should be the favourite. So the other side of it then, which I was kind of starting out to talk about, was the last time I gave... I'm pretty sure I gave Steve Garcia 2 times ago, and I gave Nick Fiore last time out because I just don't believe in the game of Chase Hooper. I've seen some people say he should have 10 fights in Cage Warriors or LFA or something like that, and then come back, or 5 fights even, or 2 years or whatever it might be. I don't think that'd help, to be honest, you know. And it's weird because he's a guy who's 12-3, and you know he's won a good few fights and all, but I just don't think he will be able to make it to the top level. He's just not that guy. Like he's just not that guy. Like Jordan Leavitt's never going to make it to the top level either. He's not that guy. But at least with Jordan Leavitt, you see, like, he has, you know, he's a good athlete enough. Like, he beat Trey Ogden. It was a split decision. Okay. You know, he went a round and a half with Paddy Pimblett. Whatever you say about Paddy Pimblett, like, Paddy Pimblett is, like, Paddy Pimblett's not as good a fighter as people make out, absolutely, but Paddy Pimblett's not terrible. Like, Paddy Pimblett would wreck Chase Hooper, you know? But I think for Leavitt, if he can keep this fight on the feet for a while, he's not the best puncher in the world, but he can probably hit Chase Hooper pretty hard at some stage. Like, Hooper's new thing now is to just kind of, I'll counter you and just punch you down the middle, whereas he doesn't really punch that hard. And if you get into a punching match with him, you're probably going to punch him harder than he punches you. Like, Leavitt's not bad on the ground. Obviously, Chase Hooper's very good on the ground. So, like, even if it does get to the ground, like, Hooper has a good chance of submitting him if it does get to the ground. But I don't think it's like a foregone conclusion if he does. So, if you take away Hooper's best attribute, and you're not completely taking away. I'm not saying like he's not going to submit him, because like he very, very well could submit him. But if you have a good chance of surviving there, and you have, and I've seen this from Leavitt before, like, he has the ability, like, Ogden is a good, not a bad striker, and he had the ability to strike with him, alright? If you have that ability, maybe even you get a takedown against Hooper, and you get on top of him, you land a bit of ground and pound, you know, you can win that fight. Like, is Leavitt going to knock him out with a big shot? You know, maybe not. But can he hurt him more than Hooper can hurt him? I'd say probably. Especially, you know, Hooper maybe early, you know, would have, if Leavitt's wide open. But I think the more the fight goes, like, I could see this being, you know, Leavitt winning rounds 2 and rounds 3 or something like that. You know, or all 3 rounds, just winning the decision. And, you know, I just can't believe in Chase Hooper. I can't, like, that Nick Fiore fight, I watched it back last night. Like, everything went right for him to win that, right? And that it could happen again. It could happen again, but I just don't think it will. And that's why I'm going for Jordan Leavitt plus 180 to win that fight. All right, next one. This one, I was very, very tempted with this one to go a little bit further with it in terms of a prop bets or something like that, but not all the props are open at the moment and all that, and it's becoming later and later. I'm recording this Wednesday evening and there's still no prop bets out for the UFC. Like, is this main card? Let me just check. It's getting towards the top of the undercard if it is anyway, but like, even for the main card there's very little there. Anyway, I'm just going for Mick Parkin straight up at minus 350. And I'll just throw it in here as well. I think this will probably go to a decision. So if you want to back the price of the decision, that might be an even bigger one, right? That you could get that maybe plus money or something like that. But seeing that, because I think like people will probably look at that and say it's a heavyweight, and maybe it'll be a higher price for a heavyweight to get a knockout or something like that. But regardless, I'm going for Mick Parkin at minus 350. I'll be honest with you, right? Obviously, you know, Mick Parkin coming out of the UK, and I'm over here in Ireland, so not too far away. And obviously, we all would have heard, Mick Parkin's after getting signed for the Contender Series, and he'd been around before that. He'd faced, I believe he faced Ryan Spillane, an Irish guy in the amateur. So I'd known about him for a good few years. And I went back and I watched his fights for his first fight, and even maybe for the Contender Series. And I was like, this guy is a good fighter. You know, he's a lot of knockouts in his record. He's a submission there and all. And I looked at him, and let me just see his size. He's 6'3". He doesn't look 6'3" though. You know, he's one of those, maybe like myself even. I'm around 6'3". I don't look it. He's one of those guys that I didn't necessarily think I would be impressed by him. I know that's a weird thing to say, but by God, that performance against Jamal Boggs, I went back and I watched it over the last couple of days. How impressed was I with him? Very impressed. How impressed was anyone watching that for a heavyweight? I think they should be very, very impressed with him. This guy, like, he put on a real clinic, technical striking, good cardio, didn't really get tired. For a guy who's only 7 fights into his career, looked comfortable in there. It was really, really, really good. Like, really good. I was so impressed. For a guy like that, maybe it was me. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention, or maybe I didn't, look closely enough. But he didn't really stand out to me before that in the bits I'd watched of him. But by God, he did in that one. And I went down and watched Caio Machado, and he is a guy, honestly, so he fought in the Contender Series, but I watched a few of his earlier fights. I watched him fighting Lee Mean, and I watched him fighting Edison Lopez over in BFL, which are they're on Fight Pass, I believe, or maybe not. Maybe it's you. No, they're on Fight Pass, I think. Yeah, and his fights have this weird similarity, where that it's a bit of a wild start. He gets pushed up against the cage an awful lot. His opponent tries to take him down. He ends up catching him in submission. Or he ends up getting on top and landing big ground and pound. He's a very, very good ground and pound, right? But other than that, and he's a very good record. Like, he's won his last, 7 in a row. He's 8-1-1. Very, very, very good record. Very good record. But I think it's because, and a little bit like Parkin as well, and he's 6'3" as well, but he looks longer and bigger than Parkin. I think it's because of that. He's a very good athlete. The two of these lads, I think, are I'm not saying they could make 205, right? But they look more like 205ers than heavyweights, and that's an odd thing at heavyweights sometimes, especially when you're watching, say, the region level. Like, I watched a few of the Machado fights. You don't see that much. So, the point there is, like, now that has changed, especially for Machado, because obviously we saw Parkin, he fought a couple of times. I think it's going to be a very different fight for Machado than anything he's ever had before. And I just wonder if he'll be able to cope with that. And my opinion is he probably won't. Parkin, all he really has to do here, and it's going to be, it's going to be in the apex, so maybe, and a little bit of a smaller cage in it, so maybe it'll be tougher to do, but if he can avoid that clinch and avoid the takedown from the clinch, I just think he's going to be so much of a better striker. Like, Machado he's kind of good knees, and especially when he kind of walks you towards the clinch, he kind of lifts him up through the middle and stuff like that. He definitely can fight in that manner, right? But I think Parkin is just going to be able to keep him at the end of the jab. If Machado rushes in, you just move, get away from him, use your athleticism, even though Machado is a very good athlete as well, and that might cause a bit of problem in there. I think the technical fighter in Parkin is is a real nuisance for someone like Machado. I really do. I just think it's going to be really, really, really hard for Machado's game to be produced against someone like Parkin. And that's the reason I'm going for him. I think Parkin will win. I do think it'll be a longer fight. I do think he'll probably win a decision. Although you never know. The way Parkin has, and this is an interesting point here I'm about to make. Congratulations to me. The way Parkin has improved, what's he going to add? Like, let's say he adds power to that. Like, he could start putting lads out of there very quickly. We haven't necessarily seen that yet at this level, right? Obviously, he went to decision last time out. He got, he did get a finish in the Dana White Contender Series, but and that was a submission. But let's see how that goes here. So yeah, I'm going for Mick Parkin, and I'm going for him very strongly, even at minus 350. All right, next bet here, fourth bet of the week. I am going for Amanda Ribas, who is, this bet has come in a bit. I was looking at it the other day. It was minus 275. It's into minus 235 now. Let me just see if it's moving any further. Actually, do you know what? It's into minus. I'm looking at Punheiro there. Yeah, it's into that now. It's into minus 235. I really favour Amanda Ribas in this fight, and this is a little bit similar to, I was mentioning earlier on, to the Andrade fight. Like, she's lost 3 of her last 5 fights. Pinheiro's coming in here, with a 9-fight win streak or something like that, after beating Michelle Waterson Gomez last time out. Looked split decision, so it didn't look exactly unbelievably amazing in that. Doesn't have massive power, good on the ground, good submissions and things like that. I have a very simple breakdown for this, and that's that I think Amanda Ribas is just a higher quality of fighter. Now, I think the problem with Ribas, and I'll be fair here because I said a similar thing to Matthews, like, I don't know if she can always produce it. Now, it's a little bit different to the Andrade one last week, because I believe Andrade will always produce it when meeting an inferior opponent. Let's put it that way. For this one, I think Punheiro has to prove a lot more before I'd be willing to pick her against Ribas, even at this price, right? I think, the best win in her career on paper is Randa Marcus, in my opinion, and that was a disqualification with an upkick, so we can kind of write that off. Other than that, like Michelle Waterson Gomez split decision, as I mentioned, Sam Hughes, there isn't anything exactly stand out there. There isn't exactly anything stand out there. She's went to decision her last 2 fights in a row. I just think Ribas will be a little bit faster, a little bit more powerful. I think, she can cope on the ground if it goes there. And I'd like, not to be like, I just think she'll win. I just do. She's always bounced back from her losses each and every time. She's lost 4 times in her career, and the previous 3 times she's bounced back with a win. And not only with a win, with pretty good wins. Obviously, the first one was outside of the UFC, but she lost to Marina Rodriguez, went back and beat Gierna Vanderova and Virna Vanderova, and then she lost to Chugagan, beat Viviane Araujo. Very good wins, very good. I don't think Punheiro is at their level, and I do think she'll bounce back, and I do think she will win here in this one. All right, final bet of the week, and this is the flyer. And the flyer this week is, again, a genuine flyer. Now, I was going to do something very risky here, right? I was going to give my 4th bet as one guy and my 5th bet as his opponent, right? But I would get a serious amount of abuse, so I haven't done that, right? So the flyer is Paul Craig by submission at plus 650. And I feel like every time Paul Craig fights, that should be the flyer. If you're not picking Craig by submission as your flyer at plus 650, what are you even doing here, right? If you were to give me plus 100 versus plus 100, who I think will win the fight, I've actually gone back and forth on this, right, during this week, and I've watched probably more tape on this fight than I have in any main event in a long time. Because usually you're like, you know the main events, and maybe you just need a bit of a reminder. You watch their last fight, let's say if it's Volkanovski Makachev, you go back and watch the first fight and things like that. But for this one, it's just like, you had to delve a little bit more into it, I feel like, because it's such a complicated thing when Paul Craig fights. And complicated in that, can he catch him? Right? Can he catch him? And here is a sentence that came into my head the other day, right? Paul Craig has beaten much better fighters than Brendan Allen, but Paul Craig has lost to fighters who aren't as good as Brendan Allen, in my opinion. Like, he's lost to Jimmy Crute. I don't think he's as good as Brendan Allen, right? He's lost to, Volkan Ozdemir, who, I mean, and now this has gone up obviously to 205, but then he's beaten Jamal Hill. He's beaten Shogun, he's beaten Nikita Krylov. He's beaten some he's beaten Magomed Ankalaev, right? He's beaten a guy who just lost the belt and maybe the number one contender if he wins his next fight for the belt. This is a guy who is just wild. Look, we know what he's like. We know he's wild. He's 17 wins, 13 submissions. And you're giving me plus 650 on that guy. Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm going to take that as my flyer of the week. There's no other option. Who do I think will win the fight? I just think Brendan Allen will win the fight. A large part of that, and I heard the lads talking on the preview show as well, is his ability on the ground. Like, he's, 22 wins, 18 inside the distance, 13 submissions. So this is a guy who's very, very good on the ground as well. So a lot of the time you see, and again, this is not a guarantee, but a lot of the time you see guys going to the ground and just immediately get caught and submitted by Paul Craig. Brendan Allen, because he's so good on the ground, maybe that won't happen to him necessarily. Now, obviously it might. But, and that's, the might is why my bet at plus 650 is being put in here. But if you are, and it's easy to say against Paul Craig, but if you are more controlled on the feet, if you are able to land some shots against him, if you aren't drawn into his game, he's a guy you can obviously beat. But it's easier said than done. It is easier said than done. And there is, do you know, we always talk about, there's a puncher's chance, or we need another phrase for that, a submitter's chance. Let's call it a submitter's chance. There's always that in boxing, MMA, or whatever, right? But we often talk about it is there really a puncher's chance? Punheiro probably has a puncher's chance against, and not to say that she's a big puncher, but she's a submitter's chance against Ribas. But do you really think it's gonna happen? No, probably not. But Paul Craig, that is a real chance. It is a real chance. And when you're giving me 13-2, 6 plus 650, absolutely. So yeah, that is it. Simple enough. You don't need a massive breakdown for that. Plus 650, Paul Craig by submission. Your flyer of the week. I know my guy John Brannigan will be happy with that one. So we'll throw that one in there. Right, let's run through some of the other UFC fights. Do you know what? I'll give you my picks here. At the prices. So picks at the prices. These are not necessarily picks. Honestly, the pick at the price for Alan Craig is also Craig. I think plus 350. That's just too much for me. Minus 480 for Alan, minus 450 in other places for him. I think this should be more similar to Matthews Morales, where we see plus 210, minus 275. That's where I think this probably should be. Maybe even a little bit closer. Paul Craig has a good chance of winning this fight. He really, really does. Let's see some of the other prop bets there. The thing about Paul Craig, and they are out for this one miraculously. Alan to win by TKO KO, plus 120. I do think that is probably the most likely outcome. But plus 120, not a big fan of that. What about Alan to win by decision, plus 700? I'm not opposed to that. Look, if Craig wins, he's winning by submission. I think plus 650, plus 1,000 Craig the knockout. You never know, maybe a bit of ground and pound or something like that. Matthews Morales, as I said, I went for Morales there at minus 275, plus 210 for Matthews. Hooper Leavitt again, plus 180, minus 230. Obviously went for Leavitt there. Nick Aguirre, Peyton Albert. Aguirre, big underdog here, plus 500, plus 450, minus 649 for Talbot. You never know. I get two inexperienced guys. Talbot has, I watched a bit of him this week. Looks a good fighter. that price I'd probably avoid the betting, but I do think Talbot will win that one. We talked obviously about Ribas Punheiro, minus 235, minus 250 some places, even a little bit lower, minus 265, around the plus 200 for Punheiro in other places. I'm looking at Christian Duncan here. Apparently he has a new opponent. There aren't prices up for that one yet, but I like Christian as a fighter. Not a great display last time out, but looking forward to seeing him bouncing back here. Barreto and Pierce. I do like Pierce at minus 125. He was definitely one I was thinking about throwing in. Barreto is a good fighter, plus 100. But yeah, I'll go for Pierce in that one. And Channing Gallagher against Jose Johnson. And Gallagher, the underdog here, maybe somewhat surprisingly, plus 163. Haven't seen a whole load of Jose Johnson, but I'll go for Gallagher in that one. Machado Parkin, obviously we talked about that. Minus 350 for Parkin. Minus 340 here. You can get him in one place as well. So around plus 260 for Machado, going for Parkin there. I like Alexander over Saring at minus 500. Obviously not a great price as well, but there's the last three fights to close it out are a little bit closer. Lucy Pudilova, fight out of Ireland. I'm going with my Irish bias here. I'm going for Pudilova to beat Perez. Mata and Ogden. We mentioned Ogden earlier on. You know, a guy who, again, blows hot and cold, but does have some good ability. I'll go with I'll go with Mata in that one. And then Charles Johnson, Rafael Estevam. Estevam, the favourite there at minus 143. And he'll be my pick in that one. All right, let's recap the 5 bets for the week. Michael Morales, minus 275. Jordan Levis, plus 180. Minus 350 for Mick Parkin. Minus 235 for Amanda Ribas. And Paul Craig by submission for the flyer of the week at plus 650. All right, everybody, that is it from me, Sean Sheehan here for Sherdog.com. Check out the Bellator preview video. There'll also be a Bellator picks video with bets, Bellator betting video. So check that out too, and check out everything on the beautiful website of Sherdog.com. I leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.